Okay, hey Team Impact. Getting set up here. Give me a second there. We're going to be talking about lesson three, reflections. Don't forget we have a quiz tomorrow. It'll be on reflections. It'll be on the coordinate plane, plotting, on just the basic fundamentals. I'll probably put some fractions on there. We'll probably warm up with those today as well. Okay, so when we reflect, we're either going to reflect across two lines, either the x-axis or the y-axis. Okay, and you know, I know you've heard of the line of symmetry. Um, this is similar to that, but it's just a little bit different. So let's get into this thing here. All right. So use the number line to answer the questions. The opposite of 6 is -6. The opposite of -5 is 5. The opposite of 2 is -2, right? What patterns do you observe when determining the opposite of a number? Well, they have the same distance from 0, right? They have the same distance from 0, right? Or they have the same absolute value, right? So 6 is here and -6 is here. Remember absolute value when we wrote it like that? It's always this distance from 0. Okay. A reflection flips a figure over a line of reflection in order to create a mirror a mirror image. So just think of that. So, they're identical. A mirror image is kind of when you look in the mirror and you're looking back at yourself, right? Each reflected point of the figure should be the same distance from the line of reflection on the opposite side. Okay, so the next thing is how do I know what's the image, what's the pre-image, or where I started and where I finished, and so on, right? So let's talk about the pre-image. The pre-image is the image being reflected, all right? And we denote that with just a letter, and we'll call that letter A. And it's not a lowercase a, it's not a variable, it's a letter. Now, the image, the reflected part, all right, the reflection of the pre-image is called A, and we call that prime. Prime, okay? So, like on all of these ones down, 1, 2, 3, you don't know where you started and where you finished. You don't know which is the image and which is the pre-image, right? So remember, okay, the pre-image is where you start, the image is where you reflect. But here they want to talk about a line of reflection here, okay? So this is pretty easy. So they are reflecting. Remember, this is X and this is Y. They're reflecting over the Y axis. They are reflecting over the X axis, right? They're reflecting over the Y axis, right? And I like this. I saw yesterday when people were watching this that maybe I went too fast and they paused the video just to get caught up. That was good. I like that. So we're going to utilize this more. And I'm going to try and change up my teaching. Okay. Sylvia reflects the original point to create a new image shown at the right. Use the image to answer the questions. All right, what is the line of reflection? So clearly they reflected it across the x axis. In what quadrant was the original point located? All right, so the pre-image is the original. The image is the reflection. So they started in quadrant 1. And what quadrant is the new image? Quadrant 4. And what do you notice about the ordered pair? Well, look at the ordered pair. Okay. 3, 4, 3, -4. So think about this. Let me throw this at you, okay? To reflect across the x-axis, we change the sign of the y-coordinate. So here's our starting point. Here's where we ended. So to reflect down here, I just changed the sign to a -4, right? So to reflect let's write this down, across the what? X-axis, change the sign of the y coordinate. Interesting, huh? It's kind of opposite if you think of it that way, right? All right, let's flip over. Go ahead and do that. I'll wait a second there, and let's go. Okay. So, number 5, reflect triangle W, X, Y over the y-axis. Remember, that's y and this is x. All right, and then answer the questions to A, B, C. Now, a lot of you are just going to count, right? 1, 2, and that's fine right now. We can count. And we're going to call that, remember, x prime. So the ordered pair for y is -7, 2, right? And if I want to reflect over the y-axis, I change the sign on the first one. So it's 7 and 2. And we're going to call that y prime. This is -7 and 6. So this is going to be +7 and 6. And we'll call that w prime, right? And, oh, I'm sorry, you didn't see that. I apologize. So go ahead and get caught up there. I'm going to connect the dots, and I have protractors up here. I like to make my images nice and clean once I do a reflection, or if I'm just drawing an image and not doing any reflecting. Okay, so there it is. And I'm going to show you how to do this maybe on Friday without a coordinate plane, which is really cool. Okay, so we're going to record the vertices of the pre-image. All right, so the pre-image is this one right here, what we started with. All right, so we have W, and it is -7, 6. We have Y, it is -7, 2. And we have X, which is -2 and 4. The image, all right, and I'm not going to write the letter, I guess I should. The image is W prime. So I'm just going to change the sign of the first coordinate, remember that, to go across the y-axis. So it's 7 and 6. Y prime is 7 and 2. And X prime is 2 and 4. Again, to reflect across the y-axis, I change the sign of the first number. Okay, and that's what they're asking here. So let's just go ahead, all right? And we wrote this, I think, down here, all right? So let's not write that again. We don't really need to do that, right? Okay. Let's go again with number 6. 6, reflect LMNO over the x-axis. Remember, here's x, here's y. So to reflect over the x-axis, we change the sign of the second number, all right? So there's a lot of work here. Okay, so this is -2, 2, -2, -2. This is going to be -2 and 2. We're going to call that M prime. If this is -5 and 2, now it's going to be -5, -5 and -2. This is going to be -5 and 2. Let's call that L prime. -5, -7, -5 and 7. We'll call that O prime. And again, all I'm doing is changing the sign of the second number. -2, -7, -2 and 7. And let's call that N prime. And let's make a nice box here, here, okay. And now we have our image, our reflection. This is our pre-image, that's our image. And I know that by the prime letters, right? And let's record our information down low like we did up top, okay? So down here, L, all right, L is -5 and -2. M is -2 and -2. N is -2 and -7. O is -5 and -7. Okay, we're reflecting again across the x-axis. We're going to change the sign of the second number. So L prime is -5 and 2. M prime, remember, don't forget your primes, is -2 and 2. N prime, -2 and 7. And O prime, -5 and 7. Okay, and we talked about that again to reflect across. All right, the to reflect across the x-axis, change the sign of the second number. So change the sign of the second number. Okay, all right, and that's an exclamation point. All right, so not too bad so far. Let's continue on. The pre-image of a triangle has the vertices of, I'm not going to read all that. Nisha reflected the triangle over the y-axis and asked to describe the location of the image. Do you agree or disagree with the statement, and use the graph at the right to help? So she said, so we want to reflect across the y-axis. So we're going to change the first coordinate, right? The image will be in quadrant 3, all right, with the vertices of this, okay? All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and plot D, E, and F, all right? So let's go ahead and do that. D is 3 and -1. E is 4 and -3. And F is 2 and -4. And let's connect those dots. Now, the image will be in quadrant 3. We're going to reflect across the y-axis. All right, so to reflect across the y-axis, we need to change the sign of the x-coordinate. So if this was D was 3, it should be -3, right? If E was 4 and 3, it should be -4 and -3. All right. And what happened here was Nisha made a terrible mistake. She changed the sign of the wrong coordinate. All right. So no, she is not correct. She reflected it across the x-axis. To go across the y, we need to change the sign of this number, right? And real quick, we could do that, right? -3, -1, and we will call that D prime. And let's go ahead and do this correctly with the reflection, right? -4, -3 down here. We'll call that E prime. And F prime would be -2 and -4, and that would be F prime. And if we flipped it and drew our lines, there it is. So no, she's not correct. She changed the sign of the wrong number. Okay, so let's flip it. This is your homework. We do have a quiz tomorrow. There will be reflections on it. There will be basic fundamentals of plotting, right? And there could be some line segments on it as well. All right, guys, homework 3 is for tonight. Have a good day.